So I couldn't choose one poem today, so I've chosen three, and they're all very short. So the first one is by Alex Lingenberg. Oh, October, you feel like my heart exploding with colour and ready to let go of everything that wants to fall away. And then the next one. Sleep doesn't help if it's your soul that's tired. And the final one. I'm learning to love the sound of my feet walking away from things that aren't meant for me. Take a moment now, close your eyes, look out the window. I'm just going to take the next 90 seconds. That'll freak some of you out, 90 minutes of silence. The next 90 seconds in silence. Take a really deep breath, the deepest one you've taken this morning, today so far. In through the nose and out through your mouth. Maybe you stretch, maybe you wiggle, whatever you need, and then slowly come back into the room. Welcome. So welcome to the October SOF Community Pod, and the word of the month is reflecting. And today we are joined by Kat, and we're going to talk about creativity and play. But before we get there, I'd love to talk a little bit more about October and what it means. And it's that time of the year, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, where we start to slow down. We start to notice the leaves changing colours. We get a riot of colour in the UK. We're very blessed, and I'm sure we do in other parts of Europe as well, as the leaves change. And we start to get used to the darker mornings, the cooler evenings, the lot cooler evenings. You might be even lighting your fires by the end of this month. And then the clocks go back. And I was listening to a podcast this morning. It's called As the Seasons Turn by Fern. And I really recommend it. So they have a monthly podcast, 30 minutes long. And they talk about the month and what's coming up. And I learned something new today. And I thought I'd share it with you because I just want to know if it's just me who didn't know this bit of history. So did you know, as late as the 1880s, we did not have a uniform time across Britain? So what I mean by that is the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So if you do it by what they call the lunar sun, Norwich starts its day before Truro because the sun has risen. And up to even before the 1880s, every city, every town, village worked to lunar time and not to a standard mean time. So the church bells would ring for 10 a.m. in Norwich earlier than the church bells would ring in London, that would ring in Leeds, that would ring in Birmingham and across to Cardiff. which I didn't know. So what happened, though, was the advent of the railway. And obviously, railways travel a little bit faster than daylight. So what was happening was people were getting on a train in one time zone and arriving in another. But what the railway companies started to discover was there was confusion over the timetable. There were accidents because they would mark when a train was going to pass through at a junction, but actually that was their time, not someone else's time. So this is when the conversation started that they needed to have a uniform time. And that is when they called it London time. So by 1880, we in the UK had one time that everybody played to. So I thought, wow, I did not know that. And I thought it was fascinating. And then the next bit obviously is British summertime. And so British summertime, again, the shift of an hour, that started as a conversation in 1905, where there was a guy who said, hold on, like we're missing out on summer evenings. So he campaigned, I can't remember his name, someone will find it, I'm sure. He campaigned for the clocks to fall back and spring forward. And that came in to play in 1916. So this whole concept of time that we live in wasn't the truth for our ancestors, which I think it's really interesting. And the fact that people suddenly realized you can play with time. And I think we still play with time in many ways. Like we get sucked into time warps. So some of you are probably, I don't know, like I thought September felt really long, but then incredibly fast. And it sort of seemed to have gone through. And there are days when I have like an open diary and that day seems way longer versus the days that I have lots of meetings or the days that I'm doing delivery. So just noticing that time and your relationship to it. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, I sense our relationships start to shift and change at this time of year, especially as we're going through the seasonal changes. Yeah, but I just thought it was an interesting thing. So there you go. I thought, did anyone else know about time changing like that in the UK? Oh, Joanna did. Well done, you. I didn't. I guess it makes common sense when you think about it. Anyway, I think it's quite a good time of year that we've got Kat come and talk to us about creativity and play, because we are slowing down yet. And our yang energy of that high vibrancy that we have over the summer months often leads us to be in a more playful mood. And I think coming and slowing down, we can start to notice maybe what we do in our design, what we do in our delivery as facilitators and trainers. So I thought this was a well-seeded time to have this conversation. So Kat, welcome.
Thank you.
So Kat, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I think it's probably better that I'm going to pin you and I, or spotlight you and I. Tell us, how do you describe what you do?
So I would say I work with facilitators to design workshops that are full of fun and play and engagement so that people can enjoy what they're learning and therefore, as a result, go and do something with it because they've actually enjoyed the experience.
Lovely. So Kat is going to drive the session today. I am just going to be her producer and press buttons in the background. Kat, take us on a journey about creativity and play and the benefits of using it in our world of work.
Okay. I'm going to start with I don't know what the word is. I've lost my train of thought already. I want to find out where you are on the scale of play and creativity, essentially. So I'm just going to pop a slide on the screen for you to annotate. Can everybody see that? Kirsty, give me a nod. Cool, thanks. My Zoom window has now moved to the other screen, so let me bring you back so I'm looking at you. If you could grab the annotation function and a stamp or a line or something, I'd love to know where are you. So how do you feel currently about the idea of play and creativity in your workshops? So designing it in and using it for yourself. So are you at the end of, oh my God, this is terrifying me? Or are you at the end of already doing it, love it, want more? Or are you somewhere in between? It's amazing. Loads of people already at the top end, which is, I mean, why are you here? Obviously you'll learn something, but and we'll learn from you. So that's cool. Interesting. Someone's put, don't think it would work with my topics or clients, which I get. I've worked with people who felt like that before.
Pat, can I just tell people how to do annotate? Because I'm seeing some
Yes.
messages. Team, you'll be able to see at the top of your screen, you are viewing Kat's screen, view options. Please click view options, and then you'll get a drop down menu, and there's an annotate function. Click on annotate and you'll get a new toolbar. And then you can choose stamp. I'm just really intrigued by everyone stamping your title as well. I'm not sure what's going on there, but interesting.
Maybe they're just playing.
True.
Question from Simon. Simon has his hand up.
Hello. It's just, I found this out the other day and it's an absolute game changer. If you're using the app, then just go down to where your mic is, where you're mute, and you'll see there's a little pencil. Click on that and the annotate toolbar comes out.
Amazing. Thanks, Simon.
Welcome.
But not on a computer. But that's
No.
good to know.
Cool. Right.
Shall I
People
clear
are
this
still
course?
stamping away, but that's really good to see. And Kirsty, will you just grab a screenshot of that as well so that we can actually get the comparison? Wow.
Yeah.
Ace. So I'm going to ask you to stop stamping now because I don't want you to be stamping for the rest of the whole session. We will come back to stamping. It's okay. You won't, you won't have to refrain forever. So let's clear that one off. And I just want to talk to you a little bit, especially for those of you who are not quite so sure about it. I want to talk a little bit about what it's not, because I know this can be a barrier to some people. And I know Kirsty doesn't love slides at SOF. However, there's a couple of reasons I'm using a few. One, so you can annotate on them. Two, my learning style is about, I find it easier to learn if I'm reading it for myself. So I wanted to put that out there for you. And thirdly, I want to show you how you can be a bit more creative or playful on your slides as well. So I'm going to show you a little bit of that. So playing creativity in workshops is not just about using arts and crafts. So it can be using those kind of things, but it's not only that. It's not only about getting the paints and glue out, okay? It's also not about doing things for no reason. So it's not about shoehorning silly things in just for the sake of it. It's about kind of purpose. So we need to have purposeful play. It is most certainly not about making people feel uncomfortable. We need to find a way to make play and creativity feel safe for people to give it a go. And it is definitely not about making it harder for you, because our jobs are hard enough as it is and you don't need anything harder. And I forgot to do my little creative bit as I did that. So here it is now. What it is about is swapping out some of the tell elements for more interactive activities that can bring topics to life. It's about letting people think for themselves and discover new ideas and thoughts. It is about giving people a safe place to test things out, to learn, to fail, to kind of see how it works. And it's about getting creative with the methods and the variety of how we deliver workshops, both to stretch ourselves and our participants. So I want to ask you a question. I'm just going to stop the screen share. What do you think the benefits are of using play and creativity in workshops? And given where people marked yourselves on that chart, I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say. If you can pop it in the chat box, and then maybe we'll call on a few people to tell us a little more. More memorable, keeps people awake. Yes, I like that. Embeds the learning. People come up with their own learning. Supports different preferences. Totally agree. People can remember what you've done. Fun and energy, different learning styles, gets energy flowing. There's loads of great stuff here. Does anyone want to put their voice in the room and tell us a little bit about what their thoughts are? Don't be shy. Someone put your hand up.
I'm always
Justin.
happy.
Cool.
I'm always happy, Cat. Cat fan number one. Yeah, no, listen, for me, creativity is just, it brings the opportunity for me as an individual, if I'm one of your trainees, right? It brings my opportunity to align what the content is to me personally. Because, you know, if I'm drawing, if I'm dancing, or I've made Lego, whatever it is, I can put my own personal stamp on it. So it brings it to me, brings it home to me.
Nice.
That makes sense.
It does. Yeah. Thanks, Justin. Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't mind. I always like to make it fun and interactive as much as possible. So it embeds the learning into the imagination of the other person, so they can see exactly the points that you're raising, and they can think about it in their own terms as opposed to your terms.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jason.
I'll go on.
Yep.
Astrid, yeah. I think I just also enjoy seeing people laugh and have fun. And there's something about the connection that happens when we're laughing together or we're having a little light moment.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And Joanna's just popped in the box, like laughter always embeds the learning. And again, it raises like the energy and spirit and the willingness as well. Great. So, bear with me. I've now lost my Zoom screen. Would someone else like to share while I'm fixing it?
For me, I think it's
Thanks, Kirsty.
the reason to use creativity in play. We're not teachers, and this might be a really hard on teachers, but we're not in tell mode. We want to bring our participants into the space so that they are active and sharing. I've just been reading, I don't know if anyone's read this book, Stella Collins, The Neuroscience of Learning and Development. Recommend it. And part of it, she talks about when your brain is curious and open, it is more receptive to learning. Whereas if we create spaces where people feel under pressure or stressed or shame, guess what? Their brains aren't open to maybe learning something new or flexing their beliefs or their values or their thoughts or their ideas. So I think part of one of the reasons of using creativity in play is to help the brain, settle down and get in the zone. So we are more receptive.
Thanks. And Jason was, I think, flagging that he has the book, waving it around on the screen.
Yeah, and he's had Stella on the podcast, and Sarah has kindly put the link to Amazon in. Oh, no, a different one in there. Love it. Thanks, team. This is what I love about the community, Cat, is like we ask a question and the next minute someone's got the link, someone's got an idea, someone's got some information. It always works quite well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I'm just reading Phil's comment as well. Like, I'm becoming more open to the fact that I do it for me too. And I totally agree with that. Like, sometimes we need to mix it up. We need to have something new. We need to feel creative so that we can kind of be at our best as well. Because like, no one wants to deliver the same thing time and time and time again. Yeah. So yeah, being creative and playful gives you the chance as well. So I'm just going to show you 4 benefits that I believe. So, I mean, I'm going to borrow loads of the ones out of the chat, obviously, but 4 from me. So it increases the curiosity and willingness to learn. So when we connect with that childlike part of ourselves, like, we're more open. We kind of go back to that place when we were kids of being interested and in kind of exploring things. So we can, reconnect with that. It also play stimulates the mind and helps boost our creativity. And I think Rich wrote something about that in the chat. Someone also mentioned this, kind of actually playing with other people strengthens the connections we have with them, and improves our relationships. And I honestly believe that one of the biggest things is, like, if you're enjoying yourself, you're going to remember it, and you're also going to want to do something with it when you leave as well. And that's what we're there for, right? To get people to change. So who's ready to play a game? Give me a wave. We're going to have a game of Child's Play Bingo. So I want you to go back in time. How far back you go will vary. But I want you to travel back in your mind to when you were a child. So let's say 5 to 10 years old. So just kind of take a moment to connect back to your 5-year-old self. And I want you to think about how you played back then. And then when you're there, because you loved annotation so much earlier, I'm going to allow you back into the annotation to grab a stamp. And I'd like you to stamp on any of the things you can see on here that you played with as a child. There's one rule to this game. Hold horses. Please don't stamp on the words because people need to read them. So stamp around them. I don't want to see if we can get a full house. Luminac. This is fast. Really interesting to see like where the hotspots are as well. So drawing, painting, that kind of side of the board, dressing up, all that's quite condensed. Not much playing football, but I suppose we are quite heavily female audience here, usually. I'm glad to see some fellow skaters in the room. I'm interested to know, do you still skate? I do. Anyone else? Jason, a little? Nice.
A little bit, if I can nick a kid's skateboard.
You need to buy your own, Jason. This is what happens. I have several pairs of skates downstairs.
And on that, Jason, my son would like his skateboard back, please.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm in Ireland, so I'll post it. I'm back in next week, so I'll bring it back to you.
Lols. Fab, thank you. You can pause. You can pause. I think we've made our point. Everybody has played a lot as kids, which means one thing: you've all got loads of experience of play and being creative, and we can use that in our own workshop design. Let me ask you, like voices in the room, when was the last time you did one of those playful things? Also, you can pop it in the chat as well. So I'm thinking, was it when you were a kid? Was it today? Was it 10 years ago? So I got the other day, a couple of days, yesterday. Helps having kids, that's true. Played with Lego last week. Yeah, anyone who gets to play with Lego for work, amazing. Most days, nice. Yesterday, last week. So actually, you're all doing these things. How many of you dress up, go to dress up parties, like fancy dress parties? Like we still do that as adults, even though it's seen as a very childlike thing to do. Love dress up, Astrid. Great. Lizzie, not if she can help it. Halloween coming up, that's right, yeah. I'm not suggesting you turn up at your workshop on the 31st of October in like full-on vampire like attire or anything. So yeah, so we've got loads of experience of doing this. And I think we should use that more. So I'm going to give you some examples of how you can do that before I set you a little challenge of your own. Bear with me. Every time I switch between the Zoom and the slides, my Zoom window vanishes, which is massively helpful, obviously.
That's because you're one of those clever people that has probably 2 or 3 screens. See,
I mean,
this is the benefit of me just being a Luddite and having one screen.
I do have 2 screens and also a Mac. Doesn't help, does it?
Oh my gosh.
I know you're not a fan of a Mac.
I
One
just can't get my
screen,
head around them.
Kirsty. How do you cope with one screen? I can't even imagine that with my 3.
We're not here to have the debate. 1 screen, 2 screen, 3 screen, Mac or PC, guys. But we're here forever and a day. Or Zoom or MS Teams. That will be all know that Zoom's going to win that.
But Zoom does have a dual screen setting if anyone has 2 screens and isn't using it, which makes it much better. So check that in general settings.
Right, Karen, we'll come back to your question in a bit. So let me give you some examples of how you can use some of these things. So some of these can be inspiration for themes. So if you love playing football, have a team workshop with a football theme. So instead of just doing a normal like team charter, why not use questions like what's considered offside for our team? Who's in our squad? What position might they play? We did a whole football themed away day once in a place that I worked. I remember having a drawing of the pitch and all sorts of stuff. So even though I'm not a football fan, like a lot of our audience were, so I used that and ran with it. How do you explain the offside rule? It's dead easy, Joanna. But maybe that's something you explore as part of this. Actually, how do you figure out where that line is and when people cross it? Maybe you love cooking and baking and you're talking about coaching. You could talk about like what are the ingredients of a great coaching conversation and what's the method for using them. You could even like draw out the recipe. You could get your participants to draw out their own recipes and things like that. If you loved playing computer games, I know we had quite a lot of people on that. Like actually, how could you use the idea of like progressing between levels in your workshop? Maybe you could have a section at the end where you test knowledge, but it's like a beat the boss, like turn it into something kind of a little bit more oomphy. If you love board games, like turn your content into a card game or pick a board game that you really love and redesign it to suit your content and actually get people to play it. This one's a really quick win. If people aren't doing this already, you can start this straight away. If you're ever delivering processes or models, literally cut them up into pieces, give them the jigsaw pieces and get them to put it together themselves. So it helps them to kind of figure out what they already know. And also they can share that conversation with each other and think about like what makes logical sense to them.
And you can do that, I discovered, Kat, you can print off, say, the process. And I think you can, obviously now you can do it online, but bless Boots in the UK, you used to be able to give them a copy of a picture and they'd make it into a jigsaw puzzle for you.
Amazing. And there'll be things online if you need to do that online as well. I experienced this at a workshop I went to. We were kind of talking about, I don't know whether it was leadership or change or something. We got shown lots of different models, and then actually we got the task of drawing our own model as a group. So like making up our own model and making sense of it for us. And that was really good fun to think about how do we take the best bits of everything and turn it into something that we could use ourselves. All I remember, it was called Hive and it had bees and stuff like that. Another really easy one, like take information and turn it into quizzes or puzzles, fill in the blanks, like get people to guess the number instead of giving them the answers all the time. It just kind of keeps their attention. And I've seen Kirsty do this in like some of her sessions that she does as well. So there's a few. Hopefully that's kind of got you thinking about what else you could do. But we're going to set you a challenge now. So in groups of 3, and I'm going to say 12 minutes, Kirsty. I know it's tight. We'd love to be here for like 2 hours, so you could have half an hour to do this. But yeah, I'm going to put you into groups of 3 and set you a challenge, which I think Kirsty's going to drop into the chat, which is essentially like think of one of your workshops and a topic or a piece of content within it. Think about which of these child's play types could inspire you to do that differently. So could you turn it into a puzzle? Could you have a theme? Could you get them to paint something that kind of symbolizes how they're feeling? So we're going to give you 12 minutes in groups of 3 to go away and have a little chat about that. And then when you come back, we'll hear from like maybe 2 or 3 of you to see what your conversations got you to. All right. Kirsty, you're on mute.
The rooms are open. Feel free to hit go. I am.
Okay.
Oh, can we do that again, please? That was so much fun.
Maybe Kimberly. But I'm going to hand over to Kat to do the
Yeah.
debrief.
Maybe we can. Who would like to kind of give us a very quick debrief of what they chatted about or what idea they came up with? Because we all know that like hearing other people's ideas gives us our own ideas. So who wants to share one?
I can go.
Fab. And then I also had Han. Is that how you say it?
Hannah.
Yeah, Hannah. So yeah.
So I'm only going because my group encouraged me to, really. So
Okay.
and I also need to duck out quickly early, so I thought I'd go first. So I came in with having done a session yesterday with some engineers around VUCA world, and I was bored with it, let alone they were bored with it. So and it was face to face, and with my very 2 helpful people who were with me, which was Hannah, definitely one, and I can't quite remember who else was with me, so that was very bad because we got excited. Claire, thank you. Claire was with me as well. We came up with having some Lego and getting them into 2 groups and getting one of them to create some sort of model with a very clear set of instructions, as they would normally do, very standard, very this is how in the world normally, you know, in their world it is, very standard. And then give the other group no instructions and simulate being in a VUCA world. So change the boundaries, throw in some change, and see how they got on with trying to create and what they needed to think about. And then the first group, we could also do that and see how they then responded, but they had to sort of stick to their fixed rules. And we sort of got into some questions around how we would gather that. So
Amazing. Thanks, Margaret. I love that
thank
idea.
you to my group.
I love the idea of having 2 groups doing 2 different things so that you can really like compare how it goes as well. So Brill, thank you. Hannah, did you want to go? And then we've got Justin.
No, so Margaret, thank you very much for talking about Lego, because actually that was also part of our conversation. And of course, there's Lego Serious Play, but we were talking about the fact that you don't need to be a certified Lego Serious Play to actually use Lego, because most people know how to use Lego, or at least putting bricks together. And I was with Ashley, and Ashley facilitates quite a heavy topic, which is around mental health and well-being. And she was talking about how that can often be very heavy. So Margaret was talking about how it can be boring, but also heavy is another topic where Lego can then lighten the load. And actually by playing with Lego, you start activating a different part of your brain, but also then if you start talking about what you have created, you know, as the facilitator, you can then go in and extrapolate a little bit and sort of check where people are at. So what I'm seeing is this, what were you meaning? Yeah. So because people can't always consciously express why they have built what they have. So as a facilitator, you can listen out for that. So that's a Lego theme going on here.
There is, isn't there? Thank you. And Justin's next. I know he's been playing with Lego recently too.
I have. This is not necessarily about that. So I was with, oh goodness, I've forgotten both, Laura and Zoe, sorry. And we were chatting, I'm not entirely sure we answered the question directly, but we were chatting really nicely, and Zoe had an interesting reaction that made us sort of talk about if you can get your participants into a place where they kind of react potentially negatively to something and go, oh, I don't know if I like that. And you kind of put your participants in that mindset. So I was talking about, Kat, I know you know that I'm doing the ChatGPT intro session thing. And Zoe's reaction was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And actually, when you can get people into that place and then offer them that solution, or offer them that game or whatever it might be to get them thinking about it differently, I think is maybe where that light bulb moment could happen. That was sort of a weird summary of what we've spoken about. Thank you, Laura and Zoe. Had a lovely chat.
Thanks, Justin. Who else have we got? Have we got another hand up? Let's switch into gallery mode. Can I see anybody want to wave at the screen at us to share their view?
Or just talk. I've never heard them so silent.
Okay, Nick.
I can. Of course.
I was Kat. We were reflecting on the terminology here. So there's something about you're calling this play and creativity, I think.
Yeah.
I suppose the more we were talking, the more I was realizing that I do quite a lot of this already, but I don't necessarily call it play or even creativity.
Yeah.
And because I do so much work in the corporate world, using the word play feels like a little bit of a disconnect for me. So I was sort of interested in your thoughts on that, really. It's about framing, isn't it? And
yeah, absolutely. And like going back to that kind of scale we had at the beginning, I'm not sure it would work for my topics and clients. Quite often that is about the language we use. And if you think about it, like play, if you think of the word play, activity, exercise, it's all kind of the same thing. They can, and you can also stretch play. So you could have, you know, some questions that are thought-provoking, and maybe there's some pieces of something to move around. Or you can have full-blown, let's go outside and everybody move around and play a game and jump over bricks and all sorts. So it's about finding like where on that scale is the right place for your clients, and then using the right language around it so that you don't freak them out, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So some people, if you say we're going to play, they'll be like, ace, can't wait. Other people, yeah, they'd be like, ugh, no, can I leave? So yeah, finding the language that suits your client. And I agree, I think lots of people are already using play and creativity without realizing it. And it's about maybe like being more purposeful about that and capitalizing on what you already know and can do, and kind of how can you do more of that.
And I think it's about how you frame it with your clients as well, isn't it? Whether it's the sponsor or the people in the room, you know, when you're doing your contract at the beginning, talking about how you might work together so that when you get there, it's not a major surprise and it's been signposted and people understand the purpose of it.
I was just going to say, Rich, Bella's just said, you know, what if there's resistance in the room? For me, it's all about the signposting up front about the session and how it's going to be experiential or interactive, that there will be invitations to participate, to play, to have a go. And I think if we don't do that up front, we do ourselves a disservice when you do get to what is a really cool activity that you know is going to really add value. So all I'd invite everybody to think about is, what are you saying at the start of a workshop in that settling period after the first activity, as you're talking about outcomes? There is a little bit of setup language that was really beneficial for you. Kat, I think we've got time for one more. And then we've got some notices we'd love to share with people.
Yeah. So we had a couple of people waving, can't remember who they were, and Esme's also got her hand up. So
go Esme.
You'll go with Esme because it's easy. Apologies, anyone else?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I've got a question. So there's someone that I work for, and they use games quite a lot, but one of the games they use doesn't have any fun about it. It's actually intentionally meant to make people feel quite uncomfortable. Again, it's actually to do with VUCA. What are your feelings on that? Like, is there, I mean, the client says there's value in it because the big learning experience is gained from the feeling of discomfort, and then obviously there's a long debrief. But to me, there's something about, I don't know, I just feel slightly, it just feels strange not having any fun, you know, like taking all of that away. Yeah, it would be great to just get your thoughts on that.
So I agree, like I've designed activities where you actually put people in an uncomfortable situation. So things like change, like actually helping people experience what that feels like to be there. Sometimes they need that uncomfortableness to kind of connect with it and understand it. What's my thoughts on, like, I mean, I'd like to think that as an overall workshop, you've also got a playful element as well. So it's not all hard and heavy. Maybe it's not in the same topic. Maybe it's a different topic that then like lightens the mood. So to me, I think it's probably about balance overall, rather than looking at each topic needs to have what it needs to kind of help people learn. But yeah, overall, I'd like to see some balance so that people feel light and not just feeling really heavy.
So there's a company in the sales world called the Gap Partnership. Some of you may have come through past them in your corporate setting. So the Gap Partnership is all about negotiation training, and at their fundamental workshop you attend as 3 days. It's for buyers, it's for salespeople. The first day, the trainer is a cunt, quite openly and intentionally. and I don't use that word lightly, and people want to walk off the course, people want to leave because that person is so rude to them. And even over dinner at night, he won't really participate in the conversation and talk to them, and is very blunt and terse. And it's all intentional, because then the next day there is this conversation, he starts to shift, and they use the concept of a clock face, and he starts to shift his behavior. And it was, the first day is all about power, and how you can take power, and how you give power to another person if you don't ask the right questions, or you don't connect in the right way. And so they use it in really strong contrast. So if anyone's ever been through gap negotiation, you'll know what I'm talking about. Others might be sitting there going, geez, that sounds horrific, but it does the job. It helps people learn. It really, really does. But it's a really amazing course to have experienced and go through. So yeah, some of you there have done it.
So I've got one final question. I'm going to share some information while you're answering this question. I know that's doing two things at once, but it'll be easy, I promise. Remember the question we asked at the beginning, where are you on the scale? I'd love to know where you are now. Like, actually, have you moved up? Have you moved down? Maybe. I hope not. So again, grab annotation and stick it on there. And while you're doing that, I just want to tell you about 3 ways you can get more cat in your life. And I will share a link in the comments as well. So please come and connect with me on LinkedIn. I hang out there every day. And I'd love to connect you if we're not already connected. If you really enjoyed today and you come out of that breakout thinking, oh, I want to do something with this, and like, I need some more time to do that, I am running a pop-up jam session next Thursday. So anyone who's been here today is welcome to come along to that, and I will help you kind of take those ideas and turn them into something you can actually use. And the third thing is SOF are an affiliate for my toy box big bundle. So if you don't like the idea of designing stuff yourself, or you like the thought of being able to just go and grab something that's already done and put it straight in your workshop, you can get 15% off in the toy box big bundle. So I will pop all of those in the chat for you.
Nice.
And it's good to see that, yeah, we've still got lots of people at the top on this chart. And hopefully kind of today has given you all a chance to kind of like actually have a think about how you can use it in practice and come up with a few new ideas.
Cool. Thanks, Kat. So big round of applause, please, for Kat.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. A couple of things for you all to know right now. So this recording will go up onto YouTube later next week. So if you want to watch it back or just listen to it back and remember what Kat was talking about, you can go there. 2 things that are coming up with SOF, which some of you know about. So we've got the Christmas gathering happening in London on the 15th of October. And we're also, Christmas gathering in London on the 8th of December, and in Leamington Spa on the 15th of December. So I've currently got the 8th of December up, and I've just dropped the link there in the chat. 13 people have already signed up. So I think we're going to have to limit it to 25 probably, just because of space and room. So if you want to come to London, go on that link right now and book. So what we do is we have a morning of reflection and vision boarding, which has become a thing, and we get it out the glue and the scissors, and lots of conversations and chat. Is brilliant. And then we go for lunch. And the reason I've done that is because I just have this vision of us all sitting on our own going, all by myself, and celebrating my year. So I'd love to see some of you there in London on the 8th, or if you want to come to the Midlands, we're going to do it in Leamington Spa on the 15th. I need to get that. So if you want to do the Midlands, drop me a message here right now so I know, and I'll message you directly and privately on email. But hopefully
Christy,
yes,
sorry,
Ashley.
I just looked at the link, and it actually says the 9th on a few of the pages, so I just wanted to
It's definitely Friday. It's the Friday. It's always a Friday. It's definitely not a Saturday, Ashley.
Even if you click on it, you're still booking the Friday.
Definitely booking the Friday.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to be there Friday. I will get the team on it and check why it's saying the 9th. I can see the 8th coming up on my website, but who knows?
It's when you click into the book session.
Trust me,
yeah.
it's definitely the 8th, Ashley. But I love the fact that there's people with detail. I don't do detail. The other invitation is we've got the intention setting session happening on the 20th of October. So these sessions have been running every quarter this year. We've created this space for you to come and purposefully reflect on what's happened in the last quarter and make some plans for the second quarter. So if you want to come and join that, we would love to see you there. People are finding it just a really useful time, having a bit of accountability, having some space to think. We're also going to do a longer half day in November where we're going to do some planning for 2024. So if that appeals to you, if you want to do some work with others, check out the intention setting page, because I'd love to see you there. Otherwise,
Kirsty, there's been a couple of requests for who the poet was that you shared this morning.
Oh, the poets.
Yeah.
There were a mix of people. So the one lady was Alex Lindberg, but the others were off Instagram and it didn't say their names. I'm really sorry. But the first one I read was Alex Lindberg. She's a really lovely American poet. So go find her. Thank you everybody for dropping messages into the chat. Massive thank you again to Kat. I'm going to do an after party now for the next 15 minutes. So if you want to stay and have a chat, you are really welcome. Hang out here. Otherwise, let's just give Kat another round of applause, please. And I look forward to seeing you in November. We're going to do November the 3rd. My guest that day is Phil Walsh, and we're going to talk about the difference between personal development and business development, and when do the two blur in our world as runners of our own business, people who run our own businesses. So I look forward to seeing you then.